is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated. Let's see. On Thanksgiving, we had a team clinch, a playoff spot. We have a team that deliriously thinks that they're still in the hunt and the fight for a playoff spot. We had the first team to win 11 games in this season. And Sunday, we had our first divisional champ. All of that is coming up next because this is Total Football Talk. Well, welcome once again to Total Football Talk. Total football, hard talk, gridiron action, the way you like it. I'm one of the co-hosts of this program. I'm Cole Johnson, a.k.a. the Mad Scientist, the EP Extraordinaire, and the EP of all EPs. And the other co-host will join us momentarily. And when he does join us, I will give you the intro when he does get here. And yes, to know the shout out to my brother Drew. We're doing this for you, my brother. Interesting week that was, even though it isn't fully over because we still have Monday night, but still interesting week that was. And let's break it all down in opening drive.
All right, let's go. We got trips right at 42, 989 on two. Ready?
All right, so since this was Thanksgiving week, every single team was on their best behavior. No buys. That will be for next week, and we'll get to the teams that will be on bye in the 2-minute drill. But to start things off, well, we already know what happened Thursday. We already know what happened Friday. And now we are on to Sunday. And we will start with the Sunday afternoon slate. So we start in the A to the T to the L. That's right, Atlanta, where the Falcons hosted the Los Angeles Chargers, who they were coming off of I guess you could say a disappointing second half to their Monday night loss, 30-23 to the Ravens. The Falcons were coming off of a bye, so things seemed to be fine for them until it wasn't. The final score was 17-13. The Chargers basically punched the Falcons in the mouth and kept punching them in the mouth. And the Falcons, well, they were sort of the little engine that could until they couldn't. Justin Herbert, pedestrian stats, 16-23, 147 yards. He also had 5 carries for a yard and a touchdown. Lad McConkey, who seems to be coming on as of late, he had 9 receptions for 117 yards. Cameron Dicker was 3 of 3 from field goal varieties. His long was from 51 yards. We also had a 61-yard pick six. I'll touch on that in a minute. Kirk Cousins, or as Ben Sutter III will call him, Kirk Two Chains Cousins. 24-39, 245 yards. No touchdowns, but a Marcus May interception, a Derwin James interception, and two Tarheeb Smith interceptions. One of them going for 61 yards for a pick six. He also had a carry for 3 yards. Bijan Robinson, a performance wasted, unfortunately. 26 carries, 102 yards on a touchdown. He also had 33 yards on 6 receptions. Ray McLeod III, he had the high honors in yards in the receiving category, 4 receptions for 95 yards. Let's just say for the Falcons. Drake London, he had 9 receptions, tying Matt McConkey for the most receptions in the game. He only had 86 yards. Arnold Ibikete, he had a tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits and 2 sacks for the Falcons, and he paced the way for the Falcons to put Herbert to the ground 5 times. Well, unfortunately for the Falcons, this was a game that they really could have ill afforded to lose. The best part, though, is that it wasn't a conference opponent. That will be the next game we'll cover, but still it's a loss, and they have a tenuous lead, which is now even more tenuous in the NFC South. They fall to 6-6. The Chargers, they improve to 8-4. Now, that game that I was mentioning, we go from the ATL to the Twin Cities. The Minnesota Vikings, they hosted the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals had a lead late, but the Vikings fought back and they won. 23-22 was the final score. Sam Darnold, 21-31, 235 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 4 carries for 22 yards. Justin Jefferson, several receptions, 99 yards in the affair. John Parker Romo, he had 3 of 4 field goals. His long was from 55. And on the Cardinal side, Kyler Murray, 31 of 45, too many throws, 260 yards, a touchdown, and a Shaquille Griffin interception, and a Byron Murphy Jr. interception. He also had 7 carries for 48 yards. James Conner, who he's up and down when it comes to the running, he was up-ish. I'll put it that way. 17 carries, 86 yards on the ground. He also had 3 receptions for 13 yards in the air, giving him 99 yards all purpose. The Cardinals offense, paced by the 48 yards on the ground for Murray and 86 from Connor, they rushed for 154 yards on the day. Trey McBride, he was the high honors in the receptions category in the game, 12 receptions. He had 96 yards for the Cardinals. On defense, LJ Collier, he had a tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits, and he paced away with 2 of the Cardinals' 5 sacks of Sam Darnold. And yet Chad Ryland, who was 5 of 6 from field goal range. And do not put this game on Ryland's leg. Yes, I know. If he were 6 for 6, the Cardinals would have won the game 25-23. But this was a game the Cardinals had control over and of. And the offense did not do what they needed to do to finish the game off. And they paid the price for it. They fall to 6-6 to the Cardinals. The Vikings, they improved to 10-2, but these cardiac kids' victories, it's going to come back to bite them. All right, let's go into the East Coast, shall we? We're going to the Eastern Seaboard. Let's go to Boston, or Foxborough, to be precise. The Patriots, they hosted the former divisional rival and former franchise rival, Indianapolis Colts. This game went down to the final gun, and the Colts, they pulled it out 25-24. Anthony Richardson, he was abysmal until the end. 12 of 24, 109 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, and he had 2, not 1, 2 interceptions. He also carried the ball for 9 times, 48 yards. He ended up having a receiving touchdown, and he had a key 2-point conversion. So yeah, it was a good day at the end for him, but not overall. On the ground, it was decent for Jonathan Taylor. 25 carries, 96 yards. He had a reception of 7 yards and a receiving touchdown. Zaire Franklin got busy on defense for the Colts. 10 solo tackles, a tackle for loss, quarterback hit, and a sack and a half. Julian Franklin, he also had a pick. And the second half, that led the way for the Colts defense. They sacked Drake May 5 times, who was 24-30, 238 yards, a touchdown, and of course that interception I mentioned of Julian Franklin's. He also carried the ball 5 times for 59 yards. Ramondre Stevenson was basically all the offense they really could muster. 18 carries, 73 yards, 3 receptions for 21. The Patriots offense, buoyed by the 73 yards on the ground for Stevenson and 59 for May, that was pacing the way for the Patriots to gain 200 yards on the ground. Now, Christian Ellis and another had a pick, and Joey Sly, he had a long 55 yards, but he was 3 of 5. Well, the Patriots, they go bye-bye and eliminated from playoffs at 2-10. The Colts, they go to the bye, but they hang on and they win, and now they are 6-7. All right, let's go to the Meadowlands, shall we? We had the Jets play a good quarter and a half, and then lose it to the Seahawks 26-21. Geno Smith, 20 of 31, 206 yards and a touchdown. He also had 2 carries for 2 yards. Aaron Rodgers, I'll skip the player of the game for a second. Aaron Rodgers on the other side of things, 21 of 39, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'll mention the pick of who gave him that pick. He also had 2 carries for 6 yards. And on special teams, Kenny Nwangwu. That's right, Kenny Nwangwu. 99-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, which brought the Jets, I think they gave them a 21-6 lead. So it looked all good until that pick that I mentioned of Aaron Rodgers. And it came off the 2 hands of the player of the game, defensive tackle of the Seahawks, Leonard Williams. 3 tackles for losses, 1 pass defense, 2 quarterback hits, 2 sacks, and a 92-yard pick 6. That big man rumbled. And that really started the scoring, and it actually stopped all the momentum for the Jets because they were actually well within the Seahawks range end of things, where the Jets could have come away with at least 3 to make the score 24-6, but it went from 24-6 to 21-13. And unfortunately, the Jets did not score another point the rest of the way. That gave the Seahawks hope, and now they are 7-5. The Jets, they're 3-9. That ayahuasca sipping, toe picking, darkness retreat having space cadet is messing this team up again. And shout out to the Jets fan that had the bag over his face. That's right, baby. Woody Johnson just sell the team. But I think that's what all of New York is saying. I think they're saying it about the Jets and the Jets. Never mind. All right, to the best portion of this week for me, the Tennessee Titans getting drubbed by a team, and unfortunately, my cohort isn't here to revel in it. The Washington Commanders were the team that the Titans drubbed, and was a team that drubbed the Titans, should say, and they dropped them 42-19, and really the game wasn't that close. Jaden Daniels, a good game. I would like to say a great game, but a really good game. 25 of 30, 206 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. Unfortunately, he did have an Amani Hooker pick. He also had 9 carries of 34 yards and a rushing touchdown. Brian Robinson Jr., He was picking them up and putting them down, coming back into the lineup for the Commanders. 16 carries, 103 yards, and he had a touchdown. He had a reception of 6 yards as well. Give him 109 total all-purpose yards. But Chris Rodriguez Jr., not to be outdone, 13 carries, 94 yards. He also had a touchdown late. And those two paced the way for the Commanders to have 267 yards on the ground. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the most yards on the ground for this week that a team in NFL garnered. On the other side of things, Will Levis, he was 18-37, 212 yards and a couple touchdowns. He actually did the one thing that made my jaw drop. He did not get a pick. He did not turn the ball over. So he was not the gift that kept on giving. That was other people. But he did have 2 carries for -3 yards as well. On defense, Arden Key, he had a tackle for loss. He had 2 quarterback hits. He had a sack and a half. I mentioned the Imani Hooker interception. And it was just a drubbing. I mean, it was just a straight up drubbing. The Titans just didn't belong on the field. I mean, the score was 28-0 with 11 minutes to go in the first half. It was just that bad. And basically, the Commanders played with the Titans the rest of the way. In essence, the Titans-Commanders game was a affair. Oh, I'm sorry. The Titans, they dropped to 3-9. The Commanders, they improved to 8-5. And so do the Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, actually, Jaguars are worse. But the game was until the end. 23-20 was the final score. The Texans beat the divisional rivals. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this would be the 7th straight season that the Texans have swept the Jaguars. And 8 out of the last 11 years have they swept them in the season series. C.J. Stroud, good game. Not great, good game. 22-34, 242 yards, and a touchdown. He also had 5 carries for 7 yards. Joe Mixon, the 6th 100-yard game on the ground on the road this year for him. 20 carries for 101 yards. He had a touchdown. He also had 18 yards on 4 receptions. Nico Collins, that I think has been a big welcomed addition for C.J. Stroud. 8 receptions, 119 yards. Derrick Stingley, he had a pick. Kaimi Fairbairn, who had a horrible game last Sunday. He bounced back to have 3 of 3 from field goal range this week with a long of 53 yards, which that extends his total of the record-setting pace of kicking most 50-yard field goals in a season. With him, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was his 15th. And I guess we get to the tragic point of the game. Trevor Lawrence was 4 of 10 for 41 yards and an interception. He also had a carry for 6 yards. And that carry, unfortunately, was the flashpoint for a fracas as Aziz Al-Shazir hit Trevor Lawrence late after he slid and hit him in the head, which, of course, it caused a benches clearing brouhaha that lasted for about 4 minutes or so. Of course, Al-Shahir was kicked out of the game. He probably will be suspended and fined for sure. He issued an apology, but it doesn't matter because Lawrence left the game with a concussion, and he just came back onto the field after sitting out some time. Mac Jones replaced him, and he was pretty busy. 20 of 32, 235 yards, and a couple of touchdown passes. He also carried the ball 3 times for 6 yards as well. Parker Washington, he led the day for the Jaguars in the air. 6 receptions for 103 yards, and one of those 2 touchdowns from Mr. Jones. Brian Thomas Jr., 4 receptions, 76 yards, and the other touchdown. He also had a carry for 11 yards as well. Cam Little, he was 2 of 3 from field goal range. Unfortunately, this one, you're going to remember this game because of the Al Shazier hit of Trevor Lawrence. But for me, the Texans had a 23-6 lead, and they just wasted the game away. And I have to say, this is probably the most unimpressive 8-5 team that I have come across in a minute. And you have the Commanders, who to me they're also 8-5, but that looks a lot better. And I know they're not in the lead in the NFC East. That 8-5 looks promising. The 8-5 the Texas look, it to me is underwhelming because half of their wins are against the AFC South opponents. They dropped one they should have had last week against the Titans at home. But each of those 4 victories were by 1 score. Case in point, this one. Even though, yes, they have swept the Jaguars in the season series, they beat them earlier this season in Houston by a score of 24-20, and they go to Duval and they beat them 23-20. Now, they're going to have tougher competition, both in the regular season slate coming up, especially later on in December, and starting in the wild card round. So they're going to have to tighten this up. They're not playing their best, and I mean all the way around they're not playing their best. But at 8-5, they're in a good spot, but they're going to hold on to the 4th seed, it looks like, but they got to do a lot better than this. All right, a little more Sunday. This time we go to the afternoon slate of games. We'll start with the Rams, who came in 5-6. Oh, I'm sorry. The Texans, they improved 8-5. The Jaguars, they dropped to 2-10, and they're officially eliminated from playoffs. The Rams, they came in 5-6. The Saints came in at 4-7, and they were hoping for the L that I'm sorry, my bad. I'm sorry. The Saints, they were desperately seeking and hoping for the Falcons, or I should say the Chargers, to give the Falcons and they got their wish. They got the L, but then they took an L to the Rams by a score of 21-14. It was a tightly fought game. The Saints, I mean, they pitched a shot off of the Rams. They held them scoreless in the first half, but the Rams feverishly came out in the second half and did their thing, basically outscoring them 21-8 in the second half. Matthew Stafford, game manager-esque, but that was necessary. 14-24, 183 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 4 carries of 3 yards. Kyren Williams, 15 carries, 104 yards and a touchdown. He also had a reception for 9, which gave him 113 all-purpose yards. But that 104 yards from Williams on the ground, that led the pace on the ground for the Rams. 156 yards of rushing offense. I like that, and I want the Rams to continue to do that. On the other side of the ledger, you had Derrick Carr, who was 22 of 37 for 182 yards. He had a touchdown. He also had 2 carries for 12 yards. Kamara, who unfortunately had a good game, but it was wasted. 23 carries, 112 yards. He also had 4 receptions for 7, giving him 119 all-purpose yards. Blake Grupe, he was 2 of 3 from field goal range, the longest from 54. And yeah, it's unfortunate the Saints, they're still in it though. They're at 4-8. They're only 2 games away from first. They split the season series with the Falcons, so I mean the NFC South is still theirs for the taking, but that's pretty much going to be the only fight they have. The Rams, they improved to 6-6, and not only are they within striking distance of the NFC West lead, but they are also in a dogfight for the number 7 seed in the NFC. And there's a few teams that have the 6-6 mark that the Rams currently employ. Now, speaking of 6-6, one of the other teams that were improving to 6-6. That'd be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They did so by beating the arch rival Carolina Panthers 26-23, but it was a fight because it went into overtime. And I know you're saying, well, why is this not, Cole? Why is this game not the game of the week? Well, it's not the game of the week because there was another contest that I felt was better. Baker Mayfield, spotty. I think that's the best way I can put it. 21-33, 235 yards. He had a touchdown. He also threw 2 picks. He also had 8 yards on 3 carries. The Buccaneers offense, they had a stellar game on the ground, 236 yards on the ground. I'll touch on, to me, the player of the game afterwards. Mike Evans, it was a good sight for sore eyes for one Mr. Mayfield. 8 receptions, 118 yards and a touchdown. Chase McLaughlin, who gave them the field goal to tie the game, to send it to overtime, and the field goal to win it. He was 4-5 from field goals. Longest was from 51. On the other side, Bryce Young, he was wheeling it, and he was slinging it. 26-46, 298 yards and a touchdown. He did not turn the ball over. 3 carries, 17 yards. He had a rushing touchdown as well. Adam Thielen, 8 receptions, 99 yards, a touchdown, and a wonderful catch in overtime. The Panthers defense, many had a sack. You get a sack, and you get a sack, you get a sack. And they put Baker Mayfield on the ground and to the turf 4 different times. Now, those 2 interceptions I mentioned of Mayfield's, Xavier Woods caught a pick, and Charles Smith-Wade caught a pick. Eddie Pinheiro, 3 of 5 for field goal range. Maybe one of those would have gotten the Panthers a win. Who knows? But to me, the Panthers just simply could not stop Bucky Irving. 25 carries, 152 yards, and a touchdown. He also had 3 receptions for 33 yards. Look, when you can get 185 all-purpose yards and 152 on the ground, you were doing things. And Irvin had a big run that basically sealed the game for the Bucs. The Panthers, they fall to 3-9. The Buccaneers, again, like the Rams and like the Cardinals, although the Cardinals fell, the Buccaneers improve to 6-6. They are record-wise tied with the Falcons for first in the NFC South. Unfortunately, the Falcons swept the Buccaneers, so they're going to have to win a divisional head-to-head outright. Well, that's just how it rolls. All right, let's get to Sunday. And on Sunday night, it was Sunday night, it was yeah. Sunday night, it was a real competitive game. I mean, it really was. The Bills welcomed the 49ers in snowy Western New York, and it was not even close. The final score was 35-10. And I really believe they were gracious to allow Isaac Guerrero to score a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Josh Allen, who to me is the MVP front runner, he got busy. I think that's the best way I could put it. He got busy. 13-17, 148 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now you'd say, well, wait a minute. That's not busy. That's pedestrian. Yeah. 2 receiving touchdowns, 3 carries for 18 yards, and a rushing touchdown. A lateral, 7 yards, and a receiving touchdown. So this man actually accounted for 4 touchdowns. And even in the game where he didn't even throw for 200 yards, he's a beast in it. James Cook really was also a beast in this game. 14 carries, 107 yards, a beautiful 65-yard romp in the snow that led to that touchdown. He had a reception of 13 yards, so he had 120 all-purpose yards, and that 107 yards from Cook on the ground that paced the way for the Bills offense to gain 220 yards. Bills defense not to be outdone. They forced not one, and one of those fumbles was from Brock Purdy, not two, but they forced 3 fumbles in the snow. And speaking of Brock Purdy, he was 11 of 18, 94 yards. He also had 2 carries of 4 yards and the aforementioned fumble that he lost. And Jake Moody, even though Tyler Bass had a rough go of it somewhat, Jake Moody had a rougher time of it. 1 of 3 from field goal range. This was mighty tough. The 49ers needed this game. Unfortunately, they're not going to get it. They fall mightily to 5-7, and they now occupy the cellar of the NFC West. Meanwhile, the Buffalo Bills not only improved to 10-2, but they also clinch not just a playoff spot, but they are the first team in the NFL to clinch a divisional title. That's right. The AFC East is so moribund that the Bills clinched it on December the 1st. They have 5 games to go, and they coast as the AFC East champs no matter what happens the rest of the way. Of course, they're looking for home field advantage. They want to get that number 1 seed and that bye possibly too in the AFC. And they already have the tiebreaker advantage over the Chiefs with the win that took place a couple of weeks ago. But congratulations to the Bills. They're looking really good. I won't say they're the best looking team right now, but they're looking mighty strong right now. And before I continue, my man, Victor Locke, V-Like-A3, or as we call him, Victor. He says, good morning to the TFT tribe and the EP of all EPs. Cole Johnson, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Appreciate the love, sir. He says the sensei in as well. He will be joining us momentarily. And that game Sunday night between the 49ers and Bills, I 100% agree with you. It was trash all the way around. Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible. But, yeah. Oh, and Till Stillman to keep his head up. The 49ers are still within striking range of the NFC West title, but they can't play like they did Sunday night because things ain't looking good. But I think it's time for... Oh, yeah, you know we got to sound the alarm for this. We got to sound the alarm. The upset of the week. I guess you could say it pitted the game of the week in terms of hype between the road warriors of the Philadelphia Eagles and the homebound Baltimore Ravens. The Eagles, they've been riding on a really hot streak, really, as of late. And they came off of, well, I should say, Saquon himself came off of a wonderful performance where he gained 255 yards on national television in L.A. Meanwhile, on national television in L.A. as well, you had Derrick Henry gain 140 yards on the ground. And the Ravens came in at 7. Let's see. I'm sorry. They came in at 7-3. I had to think. No, 7-3. I'm sorry. They came in at 8-3. And the 84, I'm sorry. The Eagles, they came in at 9-2. This was supposed to be the Titanic game of the week. It was okay as a contest, but the Eagles, who were the underdogs, barely, they did scratch out a 24-19 victory over the Ravens. To me, this was a game the Ravens had, but they just could not, one, punch the ball in the end zone, and two, they simply did not get enough out of Justin Tucker. We'll touch on him in a second. Jalen Hurts, he basically just stood out the way. 11 to 19, 118 yards on the touchdown. He also had 9 carries, 29 yards on the rushing touchdown off with the tush push. The Eagles offense, they had 140 yards, on the ground. The Ravens offense, it was, of course, paced by Lamar Jackson, 23 of 36, 237 yards. He had 2 passing touchdowns. He also had 8 carries for 79 yards. Derrick Henry, who, and I'll say the stat afterwards, he had 19 carries, 82 yards. He had 3 receptions for 29. Justin Tucker, 2 of 4 field goals, along of 50 yards, but he missed one from 47 and missed another from 53, both in the third quarter. And in the second quarter, he missed an extra point. And it looks like his foibles are continuing. As for the player of the game, that would be Saquon Barkley. He followed up that 255-yard performance in LA with a 23-carry, 107-yard touchdown performance in Baltimore. He also had 2 carries for 10 yards, which gave him 117 all-purpose yards. The Ravens, they fall to 8-5. The Eagles, they improve to 10-2, and now they, just like the Lions, are looking for a playoff berth very, very, very soon. But congratulations to the Eagles. It looks like they are on the doorstep to a playoff bid, and maybe also on the doorstep to erasing what was a horrible December and January of last year. Maybe they can improve this year. And if they ride Saquon Barkley's legs, I think they will ride it very far. Is he an MVP frontrunner? Yeah. Is he the frontrunner? No, I believe right now that's Josh Allen. But we shall see. Got more season to come. And now the game of the week, and that was in Paycor Stadium. You don't know where that is. That is on the banks of the Ohio River in Cincinnati, Ohio, between the home Bengals and the visiting Steelers. And this divisional rivalry game was surprisingly offensively huge. Not surprisingly, considering the fact that the Bengals simply have no defense and they have an explosive passing game on offense. But the surprise here, not necessarily the Steelers beating the Bengals by the score of 44-38, but Russell Wilson, 29 of 38, 414 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did throw an interception. And that was to Cam Taylor-Britt, who returned it 51 yards for a touchdown early in the game. I think that was in the first quarter. He also had 3 carries for 3 yards. But when did you ever think, who had it on their bingo cards that Russell Wilson would throw for over 400 yards in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform? Anybody? Anybody? Yeah, that's what I thought. Nobody. But he did in this game. Najee Harris, 16 carries, 75 yards. He had a rushing touchdown. He also had 6 receptions for 54 yards. So they gave him 129 yards in the all-purpose range. The most impressive part to me offensively was the Steelers' offense had, let me see, 10 different receivers having at least 1 catch in the game. So Russell spread the wealth in that contest. Not to be outdone, probably a defensive of the year candidate, TJ Watt, 3 tackles for losses, 5 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks of Joe Burrow. I mean, he was busy and getting busy in this game. The Steelers defense, they had 6 tackles for losses. They had 11 quarterback hits and 4 sacks of poor Joseph Burrow. I mean, he still did his thing. I mean, the Bengals lost, not in spite of him. I mean, not because of him, but in spite of him. Because he still performed at his best. 28 of 38, 309 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also threw a pick. Dante Jackson was the recipient of the pick. 2 carries for 9 yards, and unfortunately, the biggest misnomer, I should say the biggest negative for Mr. Burrow in this game is he not once, but twice. That's right. He coughed up the ball twice in this game. Chase Brown, he had 12 carries, for 70 yards. He also had 3 receptions for 30. He had 100 on the nose, all-purpose yards. Jamar Chase, 6 or 7. You know, so yes, he's having a wonderful season in spite of the porous, and I do mean porous, season that the Bengals are having. And I mentioned the Cam Taylor-Britt pick 6 and 51 yards in the first quarter. Well, the Bengals, I think that drops them to 4-8, and it's getting worse and worse for them. Man, I don't know what, I really don't know what to say about that team. It's like they're exciting to watch, but they just simply can't give you a W because the defense just can't stop a cold. Meanwhile, the Steelers, they rebounded from their snow globe loss to the Browns, who they will be seeing next Sunday. They improved to 9-3, and now they have more of a stranglehold on the AFC North as they now extend their lead to a game and a half over the Ravens, and they already have a win against them in tow. Well, that is this week's game of the week, and that also concludes opening drive. And before we do go onward, let me touch on my grand champ. And that grand champ for me, I just mentioned him, it's Russell Wilson. He threw for over 400 yards. He did throw a pick, but 3 touchdowns, 400 yards, and he threw to 10 different receivers. And he also withstood a temper tantrum from George Pickens because he felt he wasn't being looked at enough, and he was probably getting covered too hard by the Bengals because they just simply were not going to allow him to win the game for the Steelers. That is the mark of a veteran quarterback, basically being tunnel vision and noticing that, okay, well, I have to be this for my team. I cannot allow pettiness to gum up the works. So if I can be focused, if I can be locked in, we can take care of business. He was locked in. He was focused. He took care of business. And although the Steelers defense was off, except for TJ, this defense, I'll put it this way. The way the Steelers defensively was playing and the way the Steelers offensively were playing, it was going to come a time where they were going to have a game or two like this where no matter what the Steelers did on defense, they just simply would not be able to stop the opposing offense. And so they would have to call on the offense of theirs to actually win the game and pick them up. So I think this was a big time boost for the Steelers defense because they needed to see Russell Wilson put forth that type of total. And so kudos to you. You are my grand champ. And all I have to say about that is, simply put, you are rewarding Mike Tomlin the understanding of making the right move as a coach. He knew that you would respond to how that team would move a little better than Justin Fields, but I'll give Justin Fields credit in that game. He had a key rush for 7 yards that sealed the deal, gave it the first down after the Bengals used all their timeouts, and picked up that first down off a third down with, I think, a little under a minute and a half in the game, and that sealed things. But Russ gives the option of the Steelers that Justin Fields don't, which is he loves to throw it downfield, whereas Justin Fields, he may be more mobile than Wilson. He just doesn't throw it downfield as much. But the tip of the cap and kudos to you, Mr. Wilson. I did not think we was going to see a Pittsburgh Steelers throw for over 400 yards in a game, unless we're talking about back-to-back games. But yes, congrats to you, sir. Total football talk. All right, time for the 2-minute drill, and definitely join along and give us your picks as well. The teams that will be on bye, and these are the list of last week, will have buys. It will be the Colts, the Broncos, the Patriots, the Commanders, the Ravens, and the Texans. So, yeah, you'll be seeing Indianapolis, Denver, New England, Washington, Baltimore, and Houston. They'll all take their buys this coming week, and they'll be the last 6 teams to take their bye, because after next week, every team would have played 13 games for the season. And before I do start, my man Dante, what's up, man? I know you were happy considering it yesterday. And for those who don't know, Dante is a huge Eagles fan. I know you're happy about that effort that the Eagles put forth. They didn't play their best game, but sometimes you don't have to play your best game to get the big time W's. And I think traveling just a little bit south to Baltimore and getting that W, that was huge. And I think there's more and more talk I'm hearing. Saquon Barkley, could he be MVP? I'll say it this way, and I'm addressing this to you, Dante. I think it will have to take Saquon Barkley, and he can do this, but I think it's going to have to take him breaking the single season mark from Eric Dickerson, which right now stands at 2,105 yards. I think it's going to have to take that, and he's on pace to do it, actually. It's going to have to take that to me, for him to win NFL MVP. Otherwise, I think it's going to go to Josh Allen. The only way it won't is if he's injured or Saquon gains over 2,100 yards on the ground. One of those two reasons, I think, is why. And I believe now, I really have to say, I think Saquon booted Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry at the same time out of the MVP consideration, just by his performance and the lack of performance in the same game alone. So now that we got that out the way, and we have the teams that are going to be on bye for week 14, let's go through all the games, and we'll start with the Monday night game tonight, which is between the Browns and the Broncos. This game will be in Mile High. ESPN will have that game, and ABC as well. 8:15 p.m. in all times of Eastern will be the opening kickoff. The Browns come into game 3-8. The Broncos come into the game 7-5. I think this will be a really good test for Bo Nix. He's going to be facing a defensive front that will want to come after him. They'd want to put pressure on him. Now, how can he stand up to that? And I think his maturity has come to the point where you can almost say this will be a win, because you're almost going to count on the Browns to actually make that 1, 2, or 3 key mistakes, and you're going to have either Winston throw a pick or the defense miss an assignment. You're going to have that happen. Now, I think what's going to make the Broncos win this game is the Broncos defensively. They are one stubborn bunch. I mean, they just will not allow easy yards, especially on the ground. And the Browns need to have a ground game. So I think it's going to be the Broncos, and I think this is going to be a really good game, actually a close game. Now, will it be a game that you'd want to actually sit in front of the TV and watch it? Let me see if I can find the right answer. Bishop.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
But that's what I think. That's Monday night. That's tonight. The Broncos hosting the Browns. Now we'll start the rest of the slate in week 14, except for, of course, Monday night. The Packers, they come into Ford Field 9-3. They face off against the Lions, who are 11-1, and this basically is the game of the week, hands down. Of course, NFC North supremacy is still on the line, although the Lions already have a win in tow in Lambeau at that. It was on the rainy, muddy tundra of Lambeau Field. Not quite so cold or frozen. But the Lions, they come in 11-1. Prime Video will have this game 8:15 p.m. will be the opening kick. The Packers have what it takes to throw the Lions off. They have a running game that I think can exploit the one true Achilles heel that the Lions have, which is run defense. I'm not saying the run defense is horrible, and I'm not saying the run defense is bad, but if you're going to actually gain any type of traction against the Lions, you got to run against them. You got to run on them. So Josh Jacobs is the guy that's going to have to be key in this game. And if he does not get off, it's going to be the same thing we saw in Lambeau, but in Ford Field Thursday, where the Lions will have control of the game. And the Packers, they'll have the pride and they'll make sure that they don't get boat raced. However, they don't have all the horses. And to me, I think the Lions, they will clinch a playoff spot in this game with a win, or they probably have to have certain things happen on Sunday in order for them to clinch a playoff spot. But I see them clinching a playoff spot with a win on Thursday. The Packers will go down to 9-4. I see the Detroit Lions becoming the first team to win 11 games on this. 12 games. I'm sorry, on the season. Yeah, boy. Now let's get to Sunday, shall we? All right. We'll start with the 1 p.m. games. The first one, the Titans at 3-9. They host the Jaguars at 2-10. CBS will carry this one. 1 p.m. will be the kick. Unfortunately, I'll be seeing this since I'm in Nashville. Ladies and gentlemen, this will be the dumpster Pelican game of the week. I mean, not only are the Pelicans going to be playing this game, but the trash and the dirt and the stench will be playing in this game as well. It's going to be that moribund, that bad. And we'll have one more of these games between the Titans and the Jaguars to watch because they have to return and play each other in Jacksonville. Oh, gosh, this is going to be horrendous. Now, of course, Trevor Lawrence will probably be in concussion protocol, so Mac Jones will get the start. Will Levis will continue to probably turn the ball over and be the gift that keeps on giving. But I see the Titans winning this game. I don't think the Jaguars have what it takes to actually beat the Titans in Nashville. Now, this game was in Duval. I would say the Jaguars probably will get them, but I think the Titans will have it. I think they'll improve to 4-9. Jaguars will fall to 2-11. Well, they already fallen. I mean, heck, they've been eliminated from the playoffs, so they can't do jack but just try to play spoiler, and they won't play that right.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
All right. Also a CBS game, 1 p.m. kick as well. The Dolphins at 5-7. They host the Jets at 3-9. Put the Jets out of their misery, Dolphins, please. Just put them out their misery. I got to give credit where it's due. Tua Tagovailoa has actually given the Dolphins a renaissance of sorts. Unfortunately, you didn't see that Thanksgiving night with that 30-18 loss they took in Lambeau. but it was a cold game. The Dolphins, they respond to warm weather better. They just are a better warm weather team. They still have an outside shot of a playoff spot, but I mean it's extremely outside because more than likely you're probably going to have to come with 10 wins, maybe 11, just to get in the playoffs. Just judging by the Broncos, the Ravens, and the Chargers. Those are the teams that are in front of the Dolphins, but they have to fight and scratch and claw, and they put themselves in that position. And well, they'll win to improve to 6-7, but we shall see the rest of the way because the Jets are just they're just that bad. All right, let's turn to Fox for a 1 p.m. game. The Vikings at 10-2. They host the Falcons at 6-6. Both teams need this game. The Falcons needed to maintain their hold on first place in the NFC South. The Vikings, they need every win they can get to catch the Lions, who lead the NFC North. And they will strengthen their playoff hopes with a win. And I think they will probably clinch a playoff spot probably if they do get a win. If not, they will probably need a win and someone else to give them a loss to actually get them in. But I see the Vikings beating the Falcons in this one. Kirk Cousins is so up and down. And the Vikings, offensively, they're up and down. Defensively, they are more solid. And that is the unit that's the unit that needs to be more solid here. And because you have the up and down nature of the Falcons and the up and down nature of the Vikings offense, the Vikings defense will get this victory to the Vikings. They'll improve to 11-2. They'll drop the Falcons to 6-7.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
The Fox 1 p.m. kick. We'll see the Giants at 2-10. Host the Saints at 4-8. Oh my gosh. Oh Lord. Fine. The Giants will upset the Saints. Look, the Saints are horrible and the Giants are worse, but they got to win one for Tommy one of these days. It might as well be this game here. Goodness gracious. I don't even want to talk about this game anymore. All right. Another 1 p.m. kick on Fox has the Eagles at 10-2. They host the Carolina Panthers at 3-9. I would say that the Eagles will rout the Panthers, but the way the Eagles are set up, they want to grind the victory out. So the Eagles will win. They'll improve to 11-2, and I think they'll clinch a playoff berth to me as well. And they'll be one step closer to clinching the NFC East. They won't clinch it yet, but they're one step closer. I think what we have to see in this game is will the fight of Bryce Young continue? He seems to show some fight. It's just that he doesn't have the weapons around him other than what Chuba Hubbard and Adam Thielen. But that to me, I think that's where it is. It's the focus of this game is the fight of Bryce Young and the number that Saquon Barkley will call as to how many yards he'll gain on the ground against them. I really believe that's what it is. The Eagles will easily defeat the Panthers, but it won't be a rout. I think it'll be like some ridiculous. It's like 23-14 or 26-17. Something like that. But it won't be a rout, but it will be a comfortable victory for the Eagles. All right, we got the Steelers going back to CBS now. 1 p.m. kick. They host the Browns. The Steelers are 9-3. The Browns at current are 3-8. The Steelers will be motivated by the snow globe loss they had. They should have played better in that Thursday night affair. I think they've read too many press clippings in that game or leading up to that game because they were feeling themselves after that win they had against the Ravens, and then they promptly get the L. So they took some of their frustrations out on the Bengals. I think they'll take the rest of it out on the Browns, as this is their fourth consecutive divisional rival game. So they'll finish playing the Browns for the season. They, of course, still will have to play the Bengals and the Ravens later. But the key to this game, to me, the Steelers have to be more even and more balanced on offense. Defensively, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be better than they were when they were in Northeast Ohio. They have to contain and corral Jameis Winston, and I think defensively they can easily do that. Nick Chubb, of course, he's trying to literally get his legs under him, and since he pretty much is the only running attack where you're looking and saying to yourself, that's the only person that threatens me on the ground with them when it comes to the Browns. You're not going to see much effort, I think, from them. I see the Steelers. They're going to improve to 10-3, and they're going to strengthen their stranglehold on the AFC North lead. And the Browns, I think they're going to I have them losing tonight. I had them losing Monday. So I think they'll be 3-10 after Sunday. Goodness gracious.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
All right. Now the final 1 p.m. kickoff game. CBS will have this one. The Raiders at 2-10. They will visit the Buccaneers at 6-6. All right. So Aiden O'Connell looked really good. He looked really good, although, yes, I know, the game in Arrowhead still ended in he actually did look really good in that game. I really loved what he did. I loved how he commanded the troops, and the center messed up that last drive from snapping it too soon. Otherwise, we probably would have been talking about a Raiders improbable victory, the second in the second straight holiday game in Arrowhead that they played against the Chiefs. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about them carrying a 2-10 record to Tampa. Now, the Bucs need this game, and the Bucs will have this game. In fact, I think this will make the Bucs, along with the L that the Falcons will take in the Twin Cities, this will make the Bucs the NFC South frontrunners at 7-6. I see them easily beating the Raiders because the Raiders don't have a running game to help out things, and the Buccaneers do. Plus, Mike Evans is back, and seemingly the comfort level of Baker Mayfield has coming back because he has a reliable weapon in the air, and they can rely on Bucky Irving on the ground.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
My man, playmaker, Darnell Silence, he says, total football talk after chaotic weekend of football. Fight. Well, yeah. And we talked about the fight that sort of resembled the flag planting in the college ranks down in your way at Duval. Sad. All right, more Sunday affairs. Let's go to the afternoon, shall we? The lone 4:05 kick on CBS and the lone CBS afternoon televised matchup and broadcast. It'll feature the Cardinals at 6-6 They will take on the NFC West leading Seattle Seahawks at 7-5. Playmaker, you're going to be happy with me on this. I think the Seahawks, although they're riding a high, to me, their high started when they beat the 49ers in the last second, and then they have this last second victory in New York. I think they'll go to the desert, and I think they'll be tasting another. See, the Cardinals match up very well against the Seahawks. I mean, what was the final score when they went up in Seattle? Was it 16-6? And the lone touchdown was scored only because of a boneheaded shot put throw from from Kyler Murray that ended up in the pick six, because it was the game was 7-3 at the time. So, if that didn't happen and they actually kicked the field goal in that slot, what would it have been? That game then would have been 7-6, and it probably would have been what, 10-9 maybe. So these teams have a problem in committing to running the football, and since they have that same issue of committing to run the football, they rely too much on the passing game, and I think that is what makes them evenly matched. Now, in my estimation, both teams can trust their main running back to carry the ball more than they do, but they seemingly don't. Kenneth Walker III for the Seahawks, James Conner for the Cardinals, but they simply do not trust them to carry the load. So then you have either Geno Smith on one end, Kyler Murray on the other end. They go too much and rely too hard on them to make plays. And I think Geno Smith is going to be relied on to make one too many plays, and he's going to make that mistake. And I think the Cardinals will get out the desert, and they will also be 7-6 along with the Seahawks when this game is over. I really want to have hope for the Seahawks to pull this out. I just don't. And here is where the playmaker is going to really get on me. Fox will carry both the 425 kicks. The Rams at 6-6. They're riding a high now because they had a key victory, a key conference victory on the road at that against the Saints. They host the Bills at 10-2. 425 is the kick. This will be a competitive game, playmaker. However, for the exception of the Lions and the Eagles, I don't think there's a team that's playing better than the Bills right now. They're playing cohesive football. Defensively, they're getting after quarterbacks. They're forcing turnovers. They're making life difficult for opposing offenses. And on the other side of the ball, there is not an answer for Josh Allen. I'm sorry, there just isn't one. You got to pray that he has an off game, and that's the only way that you can get a W. And I'm saying that because I actually watched the only game, even the other L that I'm not referencing. Allen was okay. The loss he took in Houston, he was off. I mean, he was woefully off. 9 of 30 off. So I don't have the faith in the Rams defense to force Josh Allen to go 9 of 30. I would love to say they can. I don't. I think that they're just too smooth. But you have Allen, who he's going to cement more his MVP front runner status. I think he's going to have one of those games where it's like, wow, this dude can do almost everything. Uh, to me, the issue I have with the Bills is they need to rely on James Cook and LeBron more. And I don't understand why they don't run him. Amari Cooper is the exact tonic that I think Josh Allen needed in the passing game because he needed a number one wide receiver, and he has that in Cooper. The Rams are going to give you a good effort. They're going to drop this game and be 6-7 because I just don't see the Bills losing, for the exception of maybe when they play the Lions. But I don't see them, besides that game, losing the rest of the way. I actually see them going 14-3 the rest of the way because I just don't see them losing for once. And they may have a hiccup where they decide to say, okay, well, screw it. We just didn't bring our A game. But I see the Bills improve to 11-2. The Rams to fall to 6-7. And the other 425 kick. Oh, gosh. It features the Bears. The 49ers. Oh, good Lord. Oh, Lord. It's a Dunster Pelican type of game, but nah, it's more of a thing. And this is the stat that I have to actually put forward. So the Bears are on a 6-game losing streak at present, right now. They have lost 6 games in a row. In that 6-game stretch, do you know how many interceptions that Caleb Williams has thrown? I'll let you think about it for a second. In fact, I'll put a pause on it. That's right. How many interceptions has Caleb Williams thrown in the 6 losses that the Bears have had the last 6 games? Give up? Here's the number. 0. Yeah, that's right. Caleb Williams has not thrown an interception in these 6 L's, which tells me that Caleb Williams is not the main or the focal point reason as to why the Bears have tanked. It's because of coaching and miscues, either on offense, defense, or special teams, which that goes back to coaching. Well, this moribund franchise, which was 4-2 at one time, they're going to Santa Clara to now face off against the mash unit that is the 49ers. Okay. All right. I actually think the Bears are going to snap their 6-game losing streak. The 49ers are more talented, but the 49ers are more hurt. And I think that is going to be the death knell for them in this game. The Bears are hungry. They may not be able to compete for a wild card spot, but they want to show that they are better than their 4-8 record is. And also they want to play for their new interim head coach too. And they want to show that, I hate to say it this way, they want to show up Matty Eberflus and to show that how moribund of a job he did and how much they did not listen to that man. They didn't listen to him at all. You know, and I I laugh at that because this is now what Thomas Brown has to inherit. And so I think this is a perfect storm for the 49ers to accept and get drowned by, and for the Bears to ride the wave up, because let me see. They were leading the Commanders. They were not in the game. They were leading the Commanders before the Hail Mary. That's one loss. They were within field goal range, a makeable field goal, I may add, against the Packers, and lost that game. They fought against the Vikings to force overtime in that game. And they were driving for a field goal, could have possibly, if they managed the clock better, maybe punched it in for 6 on Thanksgiving. So the last 4 games they've lost has been doable victories. that they lost all of them to. So I think they have come too close too many times for them to come close a fifth time and fail a fifth consecutive week. So yes, this might be the upset for me, but I find the Bears, they will be beating the mass unit that's 49ers. And unfortunately, both teams will be 5-8 after Sunday.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
Playmaker, who, of course, if you don't know, he is a huge Rams fan, and he also does a show dedicated to the Los Angeles Rams called Ramley Talk. Wonderful, wonderful show. He knows everything about the Rams, and he will give it to you straight, raw, with no chaser. He's not one of those where he's like, I wave the pom-poms. No, he gets to you raw and uncut. He says, look, the Bears game, that's the only game we can lose. Can't lose any other. And I agree with you. I think the Rams have to do, I hate to say it this way, the Rams have to do the same thing this year that they did last year, because they started out that season, what, 3-7? Or was it 3-6? And they had it was 3-6. They had to sprint their way to a 10-7 record. And so here they are again. I think they actually were 3-6, and now they have to sprint their way to a playoff berth. But this time, they may sprint their way to a divisional crown, because 10-7 is in play for a divisional championship in the NFC West. And now for the Sunday night affair. Fox will have that kick between the 49ers and the Bears. NBC will have the kick at 8:20 between the Kansas City Chiefs at 11-1, hosting the I knew I was going to do this one day. They should be in San Diego, but the Spanish family is stupid and wants to rent from the from Stan Kroenke, Los Angeles Chargers at 8-4. But this game is not in LA. They already played their game in SoFi. This is an Arrowhead. Kickoff is at 8:20. NBC and Peacock will take it. The Chargers, I don't know what it is. The Chargers seem to play the Chiefs really tough. No matter if it's in LA or in Arrowhead, they seem to play them very tough. I mean, it seems to always be 50 to 55 minutes. Both teams are grinding it out against each other, and not in a nasty way, just in an ultra competitive way. The Chargers give the Chiefs probably the toughest battles in the AFC West. Maybe not this year, because I think the Broncos might give them a tougher contest. Definitely when the Chiefs go to Mile High. But I'll say ever since Mahomes has become the Chiefs starting quarterback, I can't remember a time when the Chiefs routed the Chargers. However, for the exception maybe a couple games, I can remember the Chiefs coming out on top in almost every one of them. And this will be of no exception. I think the Chiefs will improve to 12-1. This will probably put them on the doorstep of an AFC West championship. If I'm not mistaken, it definitely will. It definitely will if they beat the Chargers, because they would have swept the season series from them. They still have to play the Broncos. So if they clinch, or they will come close to clinching Sunday night, but they will clinch a playoff. But they already clinched a playoff spot. So no matter what, the Chiefs are in it. The Chiefs are in the playoffs. So it's all about the number one seed for them. It's all about them holding off the Bills. So yes, I think the Chiefs, they'll be 12-1. The Chargers, they'll fall to 8-5. Well, they'll be in good company with possibly the Broncos and the Ravens battling out to see who's going to be the number 5 seed. And that is huge, because to me, that is the prime spot for the wild card spot, because the 5th seed team will probably have to go to Houston, and they'll have to play them. And to me, the Texans, they could be had by a team that is willing to play 60 minutes. Well, that ends the 2-minute drill. I said that ends the 2-minute drill.
Total football talk.
But it does not end the festivities here. No, we're going to award our Snowflake of the Week. That's right. And I'll do an honorable mention to Aziz Al-Shahir, I'm sorry, of the Houston Texans. Son, I know you've been taught whenever you see a quarterback slide, and even as fast paced as the game is, you know when a quarterback slides, avoid hitting them at all, but definitely avoid hitting them high. Avoid hitting them in the head. And when you're launching and the quarterback is sliding, you're going to hit them in the head. Now, I'm not saying what you did was malicious, but what I am saying is that it was stupid. It was immature, and you should know better than that. But apparently you do not. And because of that hit, and you said that you understood that the Jaguars, they took up for the QB. But in that moment, you didn't understand because you were jawing, you were fighting, you were pushing to them with your understanding of, well, they had to take up for their guy, and you talking to Trevor before the game. In the heat of the battle, you were wanting to fight and swing at anything that looked aqua. Come on, man. You got to do better than that. You are a reflection. I'm not saying you are the reason, but you are a reflection of what I do not like about the Texans right now is that this team is chock full of immaturity all over the place. The offensive line, which did better, I'll admit, yesterday, but it's the Jaguars. You're supposed to do better. But the offensive line and the play calling has been atrocious. You cannot hit QBs in the head. You go for the head, the referees will look for any reason to blow the whistle and throw the flag on you. Even if you cough on it. And you should know better than that. So you get the honorable mention. However, to me, this is the Snowflake of the Week.
Hey, ain't nobody care. Who cares? Ain't nobody care. Hey.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen.
Delete!
Dallas Cowboy fan. Now, I know you're happy. You high off the hog because you got a chance to see not one, but 2 wins in a given week. I know you're happy. You're back to, we're going to Super Bowl, right? We're going to Super Bowl, right? We're America's team. That's why we on Thanksgiving, every Thanksgiving. That's right. That's right. Yeah, we America's team. And you got hype off of hearing Michael Parsons say, quote, well, we're still in it. We're still fighting. And we're gonna make this. We're gonna make this do what it do. Close quote. I don't fault Michael for saying it. He's supposed to say that. I'm faulting you, Cowboys fan, for eating it up hook, line, and sinker, just gobbling up. We're gonna run the table. You're gonna run the table. You're gonna run the table. You do realize one of the games that you play in the future will be against the Eagles. Yeah, you ain't running no table. And remind me, what was the final score of the game that y'all played in Arlington? Was it what 34-6? Yeah, and they took it easy on you. So no, 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 no. And before then, you have to play the Bucks, who they're competing for a divisional crown. And your last game was at home against the Commanders, who they might be fighting for a play, if not a high playoff seeding, if things go well for them. No, man, I just don't see you all running the table. To take you doing that to get a playoff bid. You can get in at 10-7. You might be able to get in at 9-8, but I doubt you will get in at 9-8. You may be at 9-8, but I say 10-7. 10-7. If you do run the table, you will get in. So you might run the table. You might run the table. I just don't think you are. And granted, Commanders, it's a little tough. I mean, look, your biggest hope, your biggest wish is to have the Commanders come back to you. It's possible. They do host the Eagles in 3 weeks' time, and in 4-ish weeks' time, they host the Falcons. So those are 2 possible L's. So the Commanders are 8-5 now. So let's say they go to New Orleans. I think they'll beat the Saints. So they could be 9-7. Now, if you run the table and they're 1-2, when they get to you and they play in Arlington, that will probably be the game we will see to end the regular season, more than likely. But to do that, you are going to have to run the table. And I have to say this to you.
Stop it. Get some help.
Because your season is completely off the rails. And I know Cowboys fan, you like this dude here.
I think I got my swagger back. Oh.
No. Come on. Your team, Charles.
That's terrible.
Yeah. So I will say this. I think you will. I think you will run the table. I think you will be 10-7 at the end of it all. I think you'll beat every team that's in front of you. I think, yes, you have a 2-game winning streak now. I think it'll be a 7-game winning streak, and you'll go straight into the playoffs where you'll be able to run the table there and go to the Super Bowl. I mean, I can just...
We gotta pause that.
No. Listen to me. They can be 10-7. Then they could probably get like a 7th seed. You know, then they'll get revenge. They'll beat the Eagles in the wild card round, and then they'll probably play it. They'll probably play. I don't know. Probably either the Falcons or the Bucks or the Seahawks or the Cardinals or the Rams in the divisional round, and then they'll play the Lions in the NFC Championship game where they've not been in 29 years, and then they'll go to the Super Bowl where they'll beat the Chiefs and win their first Super Bowl in 29 years.
That was a lie.
I mean, think about it. It's sensational.
What?
It's fantastic.
What?
It's spectacular. It's wondrous.
What?
It's something that is made out of dreams.
What?
I can't believe it. I mean, will you all will be like Kirk Cousins?
You like that? You like that?
I know you all be like,
You can't handle the truth.
because Cowboys fan, you're saying this is going to happen. I know that's what you're saying. And I know that's what you're thinking. But
You guys want to hear a fucking story?
your team sucks. It's not happening. I'm sorry. No. Mm-mm. And for those who believe that Cowboys fan, because of this modest 2-game winning streak, that you're going to run the table and you're going to make a deep run in the playoffs and go to the Super Bowl with Cooper Rush as your quarterback.
Ain't nobody care. Who cares? Ain't nobody care.
With Rico Dowdle as your starting running back. With CeeDee Lamb dropping 2 and 3 passes every game. With Micah Parsons having more of an effect on his podcast than he does on the field. With Trayvon Diggs being burnt to crisp like a toast. No. Prepare for 2025, because Cowboys fan, your time for this season is over. So prepare just like Rain Dakota Prescott, lounge on the sideline, and watch the better teams do how they're supposed to do it, because your squad is bereft of talent, but it's more bereft of an owner and a GM that doesn't recognize and realize he is in the franchise's way.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
Okay, that's it. I can go on and on about this guy, but that's it.
As long as it's one. It's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording.
And now we've come to the end of episode 66. Wow, can't believe it's been. Wow, that's a lot of episodes. Oh, Total Football Talk, and this is normally when we put together our final thoughts for the week that was, and probably even thoughts of things that are to come. And I have to send a shout out to the Chicago Bears front office. I'm glad that you all saw that Matty Eberflus was not the guy, and that he gave this excuse of, well, we did what we were supposed to do, when you had in a game 32 seconds to go, one timeout, you only run one play, and you don't use the timeout. He was buoyed by a run at the end of last season that got him to a 7-10 mark, and it shouldn't have gotten him to that mark. With the QB that he decided to let walk, because he would have a new quarterback to mold into clay, although he's a defensive specialist. But the Bears thought, oh, it's the quarterback. Let's get rid of him. You did. And you still had the same problems. Then you all were like, it's that safety that seemed to have his head in the stands, not in the game. So you said him. Oh, it's the offense, because they can't score. So you get rid of that offense coordinator and you put in another one. And now with a game that ended on a special teams miscue, and a game that ended off the heels of the game that ended in a defensive miscue, you now have a game that ended on an offensive miscue. And you can't lay the blame on the kid, And you can't lay the blame on the other 10 guys on offense. You know that there is a specific thing that you want to do. There's a specific way you want to run. There are things you want to do. There's strategy that you want to implement and employ. And you don't do it because everything is fine. You did what you wanted to do, you said, Mr. Eberflus, but your team was down 23-20. You were in field goal range, although it would have been like, what, a 55-yarder? No, not 55. It would be like a 52-yarder. So you were within field goal range. The thing is, you'd run 2 plays. One of them be the end zone. And if you don't get in the end zone, get as close as you can to get the game time field goal to send your game in overtime. No, you're not thinking that way. You take your sweet time to send in the play. You have the young man who knows that he has to snap the ball and go downfield the shorter amount of time he has. And you don't use the timeout you had. Even if it went off the rails like it did, if you called a timeout, you would have been good. But no, no, you weren't. And I hate it for you because that is the last game that you have coached thus far as the head coach of a team. That's what you have right there. But that's okay. The Bears learned their lesson, and hopefully they'll continue to learn their lesson. And Thomas Brown, look out for you. Look out your back, son, because things are not going to be looking good for you. But Eberflus, know this, son. When it's time on the clock and you have a timeout and you're down 3 points and you're in your opponent's territory and you have 32 seconds left, if you don't even want to use your timeout, spike the ball. You know, it was first down. First down, take a shot to the end zone. That won't run too much time off the clock. Take a shot down the end zone. If it's not there, instruct him to throw away the ball. That's first down. That may take maybe 6 to 8 seconds off the clock. Then the second play, run a 10-yard out or a 15-yard out. Or run a play across the middle because you do have a timeout. But run something to where you think, okay, this will be good enough. It gets us closer. And then you call your timeout. You know what you've done? You would have run 3 plays within 32 seconds. 3. You only ran 1. That is highly inexcusable. So then you had to say that we did what we were supposed to do. There's no fault here. And not take accountability? Come on, Eberflus. You know better than... No, you don't. You don't know better than that. That's why you don't have a job. Because you couldn't say, well, it's the offense coordinator's fault. No. It's the rookie's fault. Nope. It's offensive line's fault. Nope. It's your fault. You're the guy who's supposed to manage all the affairs on the field. You're the CEO of the team. And so no one on the field that represents your club usurps your authority when it comes to strategy. Now, how you did not strategize that in any way, shape, form, or fashion. That just shows how inept you are as head coach. Oh, well, but I'll say this though. Chicago Bears organization, you thought you was going to get better when you fired Lovie Smith. How's that working out for you?
As long as it's one. Oh, it's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording. Listening to it.
Well, I totally appreciate you, Tribe. You are awesome. That concludes episode number 66 of Total Football Talk. And if you want to reach out to my brother Drew, all you have to do is go onto the myriad of social media platforms he has. On Instagram, it's Sertoba_media. At X, it's Sertoba_media. At TikTok, it's it's at the underscore Sertoba. And at YouTube is at Sertoba Media. And if you want to reach yours truly, just go to floco.com/page/host Cole Johnson. That's floco.com/page/host Cole Johnson. Well, I totally appreciate the likes, the shares, the subscriptions, the comments, even whether on live or when this is on replay. We appreciate every comment that we receive. And again, tell us who you think in the description box who's going to win the games for the Week 14 slate of the 2024 season. For Drew Willingham, I'm Cole Johnson, here to say in parting, as I always do. In life, just like a tackle, keep your head up. And as always, remember, you got to play until the whistle blows. And stay tuned for all things that are coming from Sertoba Media, like D Will in the evening. Hopefully, we'll get a return of our sports debate soon, but definitely D Will in the evening. Stay tuned for that. And of course, more Total Football Talk stuff, like in Total Football Talk Extra. And Commander's Gridiron Report tomorrow. It's going to be a happy report for him tomorrow. Or the Coming Media YouTube channel, where you'll get mentality episodes and Total Football Talk as well. And you're going to get another show as well. And as my partner will say, after I say, you got to play until the whistle blows, he'll always say, and as always, stay safe out there on these streets. For Jerome Cole, it's time to go and bid you adieu. See you next week.